Hump day. If people still say that, great. If people don't, we're bringing it back. Welcome to the show. It is Wednesday. We welcome you to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Let's make some legendary trades. We're going to look at the most traded list. We're going to give you buy lows and sell highs. And it's the midway point. It's the midway point of the fantasy season. So we'll do first half awards and second half predictions. Who's going to be the MVP of the second half? Who's the MVP of the first half? How much did Tez Johnson go for in the FFT Open leagues? All those things and more. All right, I'm Adam Azer, Dave Richard, Heath Cummings. Heath has the bye week blues. I'm treading very lightly around Heath today. Heath, you look healthy. You look good.
I just want to say that it worked. Thank you to whoever the brilliant listener was who just saved me from sneezing through Adam's kind of long for a packed show monologue. Because I had to sneeze as soon as the music came on. The sneeze button hit in my nose, and I just stared at my ring light, and it went away.
Officially, it is staring at a light prevents you from sneezing. I did confuse that last week. Yes. I apologize. Now, I thought Tez Johnson was going to go for a lot. Turned out Tez Johnson was rostered in most of my leagues, but in the FFT Open leagues, I only saw one big bid on him, $25. In one of the leagues. In the others, I saw $8, $11, $0. This is out of an original $100 budget, $0, and Dave got him for $3.
Oh, so I got him. Nice.
Yeah, I overestimated the Tez Johnson mania. However, I underestimated the Oronde Gadsden mania because he routinely went for at least 15, a lot of cases $20 to $25. Which we think
did you hear Dave on Sunday Night Show?
Yeah, but Dave on Tuesday's show said that's probably not the route to go because there are a lot of tight ends. And spending 20% of your original fab budget on any of them was probably a mistake. So I only bring this up for the people who still are running fab tonight. You know, obviously your league's going to be different, but that's just what we saw in the FFT Open leagues. News and notes. The Jets seem likely to go with Tyrod Taylor after what their owner said about Justin Fields yesterday, and Rich Cimini reporting it seems like that's the way they're leaning this week at Cincinnati. Carson Wentz is going to start this week. We're going to preview that game, Minnesota at the Chargers on Thursday. Aaron Jones has a chance to play. The Chargers' run defense has been probably the worst in football over the last 3 weeks. They've allowed a running back to score 29 or more fantasy points in 3 straight games. It's unbelievable. Lamar Jackson missed practice Monday. They were off yesterday. They'll practice again today. The Chargers, back to that game, the Chargers, their starting tackles were both limited. So they both missed last week's game. We'll see if they play. It could be a big deal. Hassan Haskins is doubtful. Todd Bowles did not rule out Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving just yet. Seems like they're unlikely, but we'll see. They're at New Orleans. Washington plans on having Deebo Samuel practice all week. They're at the Chiefs on Monday, so we won't know his practice status until Thursday, Deebo Samuel. Jacoby Myers, he's on a bye. He says he still wants to be traded. He's like, oh, yeah, still want to be traded. If you're desperate for a wide receiver, I'll give you a guy who's been good in 2 of his 3 healthy games. His other game, he played about half the snaps and stunk. That's Calvin Austin. He's trending in the right direction. He plays Green Bay Sunday night. The Titans will be without L'Jarius Sneed, it seems. The Broncos will be without Dre Greenlaw. It's not really a big deal. He's played like 20 snaps all year. And the Giants will have a new kicker this week, either Younghoe Koo or Graham Gano. Sunday, we do not have an 8:30 show because we do not have an international game. We will be on the air from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., getting your lineup set, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today, 2-hour pregame show, 11 to 1. Okay, I got all that out of the way. The rest of the show is yours. Jamie will be here shortly. I want to take a look at the most traded list. Yeah, I'm not going to read this from Ben. I don't want to get off subject, but Ben,
you're okay, Ben.
You're in trouble. I want to take a look at the top 12 most traded. We'll see how many we get to here. And you just tell me, are you a buy, a sell, or a hold based on what you think their current value is? Here we go. Derrick Henry.
Hold.
Buy.
A.J. Brown.
Sell high if you can.
Buy.
Are you okay, Heath?
Yep.
What happened? What's
got
going
this
on?
head-like thing going on over there.
No, I'm good.
No, he's got a sneeze.
Is that it?
I'm just thinking. No, I'm just
No,
processing
you're
the
holding in a
information.
sneeze.
I have no sneezes currently. The light. I looked at the light. I saw the light.
J.K. Dobbins.
I I don't think you can sell that high on him. He's probably more of a hold than a sell high.
Sell if you can.
Yeah.
He's got no more than 2 catches in any game, no more than 1 catch since week 1. Dallas, Houston, Raiders, Chiefs coming up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like RJ Harvey is doing anything to like make inroads on Dobbins' role. I think Dobbins' role is pretty much set. It's just not as great of a role as it could be. There's still a third running back in the mix there. I don't think anybody's clamoring for J.K. Dobbins in trade, so you're not going to get much for him if you do trade him.
It's like a Gus Edwards role with a bottom 10 offensive line.
They have a bottom 10 offense?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's a Gus Edwards role, period.
Yeah. I meant to put a segment in the notes.
He's better than Gus, though. You're not comparing him to Gus.
Well, I just want to there's a group of running backs that have these are running backs, like fantasy relevant running backs that have the lowest route participation rate in the NFL. David Montgomery is at the way bottom. Quinshon Judkins, Derrick Henry, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, RJ Harvey, believe it or not, Ken Walker, and J.K. Dobbins. These guys have Dobbins is not that bad. He just never gets targeted. But Montgomery, Judkins, Henry, Bill, Harvey, Ken Walker, J.K. Dobbins. I think like they kind of are what they are. They're not gonna be big factors in the passing game, right, Heath?
Right. And to defend the Gus Edwards role, like for most of the period that he had that role, he averaged 5 yards per carry.
I think there's 2 guys on this list, though, that you could see getting 20 carries or close 18 or more carries on a fairly regular basis, and that's Judkins and Derrick Henry. Judkins has a pretty favorable schedule, games where they could be competitive. They're not going to be, it's not going to be like, oh, he had 10 carries as they were getting blown out. I mean, maybe they stink, so maybe it will happen. But that's the difference between Dobbins. Dobbins is around 15 carries most weeks, and he doesn't get any catches. All right.
I would say if you wanted just like a little bit of an orange light on Judkins, and I don't think it's him, I think it's the line. If you look, like he just had this monster game with 3 touchdowns. But if you look at the games against the Dolphins, every running back's like 5 yards per carry, 6 yards per carry, 6.5 yards per carry, and Judkins was, I think, 3.7 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that huge run and everything else was just kind of okay.
Okay. All right. Chase Brown, buy, sell, hold.
I think he's actually worth trying to buy, especially if you're desperate for running back help. If you've been just battered by injuries and you need somebody who can fill the spot and be no better than a middle to low end RB2, I would imagine that he won't cost you a ton. And there's probably, can he get any worse than what he's been? What has he been? 9, 10 PPR points, 12?
Yeah.
Good week. He can be better than that as this offense might crank it up a little bit with Joe Flacco and then Burrow coming back, and scheduled toward the end of the year isn't that bad. Fantasy playoffs.
Okay.
The good news is he's averaging 7.5 yards per carry with Joe Flacco. The bad news is it hasn't turned into yards because if Joe Flacco's on the team, you're going to throw the ball 40 times.
It's true. Last one here. Travis Etienne, buy, sell, hold. 3 bad games in a row for Etienne, but tough schedule, right? It was Kansas City, Seattle, and the Rams. He gets a bye now, then the Raiders, Texans, Chargers, Cardinals, Titans, Colts. It gets easier. Etienne, buy, sell, hold.
Buy low.
Sure.
I actually think that's a good one, right? I didn't really think about that until the show today, but he's on a bye. Travis Etienne. Tootin is, I mean, maybe they say, all right, we got to get Tootin more involved coming out of the bye. But short of that, he's got a great role with a schedule that lightens up. Catches could go away when Brenton Strange comes back, because we did see that. But I don't know, something to think about.
If you've got ETN, do you make the move to acquire Tootin? While Tootin's value is almost nothing.
He's got to be. I mean, he got to be one of the most dropped players by Thursday morning.
Yeah, he could be. You just wait for him to get dropped.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to happen in a lot of leagues. You should just pay attention to who's being dropped out there, Heath.
Yeah, I yesterday I looked through the notes. I often look through the Tuesday notes because I want to see what you guys are talking about as I'm going through writing my previews. And you had the drop-o-meter. And I didn't see a name that I thought I was going to see.
Oh, man. Show notes critique.
Did you put JMO on the drop-o-meter?
We talked about him just before the drop-o-meter, because that we went from some Monday Night Football to the drop-o-meter. So, yeah.
He should have been the headliner of the drop-o-meter.
It was, man, I've never lost a bet that I felt so good about. It was me versus Heath, Tedero McMillan versus Jamison Williams. McMillan goes out and scores like 6.3 PPR fantasy points. I'm just sitting pretty. And yeah, lost that
It's
one.
almost as good as Dave and I's Marvin Harrison, Jerry Jeudy season-long bet.
Well, look, let's talk about BetMGM real quick. Jamie's good. Hey, Jamie.
Good morning.
Morning,
Yo.
sir. All right, it's football time at BetMGM. Register with BetMGM to get instant access to the best variety of parlay selection features, no sweat and boost tokens, live betting options, and much more. And new players can receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets with the bonus code FANTASY if they don't win their first bet. You don't want to miss out on any of the hard-hitting action at BetMGM. Place your money line, parlay bets, and more today. BetMGM, make it legendary. That code again is fantasy. Okay, buy low. You know what? Jamie hasn't spoken yet, so I'm going to let Jamie go first with his buy lows. You had Kyren Williams as a buy low, right?
Yes.
Okay, Kyren Williams and Bucky Irving are your buy lows.
Yeah, I think you get the theme every week with me. Team on a bye or guy that's coming off of injury. I think if you're in a great spot with your record, these are two guys you can't play. Kyren this week, we may not get Bucky Irving for 2 weeks. I think both for the stretch run are going to be very prominent fantasy options. So see if the managers with those players are looking to sell and need help going into their bye week.
Do you worry at all about Kyren having, it's kind of nitpicking. He's got Seattle twice. Best run defense in football, arguably. He has Tampa Bay. Does that bother you at all?
There's never going to be an ideal situation, I think, for a lot of players, especially, again, if you're trying to acquire somebody who's, a first or second round pick and you're hoping to get them cheap. So there's going to be some pitfalls. But like you said, I understand you're nitpicking. He's on a very good offense. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. I know Blake Corum's been stealing some touches, but that really hasn't impacted what his potential can still be and what his upside still is. So if I can get him at the right cost, I'd be looking to do so.
All right, that's Kyren Williams. If there's anyone on the, would you rather have AJ Brown or Kyren Williams?
I think given the position difference, it depends on what you need, but they're very similar type of players. Huge upside, have had some struggles. You'd like to have them on your fantasy roster for the stretch run.
Can I tell you why? You know what? I'll get to this in a sec. I'll get to this later because Dave has AJ Brown as a sell high. I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna give you a good reason. I think I'm gonna change your mind, Dave Richard.
Okay.
Okay.
That never happens.
Yeah. Buy low for Dave is George Kittle and Rico Dowdle. Kittle had 2 targets. He did run most of the routes. Rico Dowdle had 17 carries and 1 catch against the Jets. You're saying buy low on Kittle and Dowdle.
If you've got a fantasy manager that started Kittle and they're really unhappy with what they got, they waited for Kittle to come back, and then he gets a 0. Yeah, maybe you can go ahead and lock yourself into one of the best tight ends that you could have in fantasy football without giving up too much for him. So it'll take an impatient manager to give up on Kittle, or they might have another tight end that they've been using while Kittle was on the shelf, and they might say, yeah, I'm better off using this other random tight end. I'll trade you Kittle and get something for him. I think Kittle will obviously start catching passes, and I especially think he'll be better once Brock Purdy comes back.
Just before you go to Dowdle, Dave, I have a question. Not specifically questioning this, just
go ahead.
In general,
change my mind.
And I think it goes both ways in terms of positive and negative. Do you think with all these tight ends popping up and their recent production and potential, so Rondé Gadsden, now Cade Otton's opportunity, does this help or hurt the trade market in tight ends? Does it help the fact that if you're the Kittle manager and looking to maximize his value to somebody like you, let's say, for example, is looking to buy him, and you have Gadsden, or you have, one of these guys, Cade Otton, et cetera, does it help that you're able to sell from a position of strength? Or do you think because the market is now saturated, it's harder to trade somebody like Kittle for their value?
I think you have to view Kittle as someone who's better than one of these streaming tight ends. And if you think George Kittle is just as good as Gadsden,
no, that's not the point.
I get what you're saying, Jim. It's a great question. It's like, does someone take the approach with, I'm not going to trade for Kittle, I'm just going to stream tight ends all year?
Right. But some people don't like doing that. Some people just want their tight end and they want to set it and forget it with their lineup. And especially with someone like Kittle, who I think we can still look at and say should be able to outperform a streaming tight end from week to week.
But that's not the question, though. The question is the trade market. The trade market now, because we were drafting the top three guys, right? We were drafting Bowers and McBride and Kittle at a different place.
You're not going to get 3rd round value for Kittle in trade.
Right, but I guess what I'm getting at is like, maybe I'm not explaining this the right way.
If you would go back through this season and look at our weekly waiver wire at tight end and like the top 2 guys every week and what they did the next week, if you've been on that roller coaster, then George Kittle sounds pretty
yes,
good. Like, because so many, and I just go to my own column, and so many times this guy has had 2 straight good games, looks awesome, and he scores 2 points the next week.
Right.
I'll wrap it up with this. Do you think the best play at tight end is to buy low on a guy like George Kittle or Brock Bowers, or to play the waiver wire?
I think if the Kittle manager, if the Bowers manager, I guess you throw McBride in there because they're on a buy. Like, if they're willing to part for those tight ends cheap enough, you should obviously buy. But if they're asking for, to Dave's point, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round value because that's where they drafted them, then you just play the waiver wire.
I'll give you a few names. Would you trade this player for George Kittle? Chris Olave.
In a blanket, I'd rather have Olave.
I'd rather have Olave in a streaming tight end. I guess I'll just.
Like that's the way you can put it.
I think it would be full PPR. I'd take Olave. Half PPR, I'd rather just go Kittle.
That's fair.
Would you rather have J.K. Dobbins or George Kittle?
Kittle.
Probably Kittle.
Dobbins in a streaming tight end.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on. Dave, give me your quick thoughts on Rico Dowdle.
He's the better running back in Carolina. Just watch them play. Chuba Hubbard is okay, but Rico Dowdle is faster, hits the hole quicker, can catch the ball out of the backfield. I really don't know what the Panthers coaching staff is thinking by starting Chuba and then giving him as much work as they did. I am hoping that they see the light. This is me banking on Dave Canales and company, recognizing that Dowdle's the better back. After last week, his value took a huge hit because he didn't run for 200 yards and he split pretty close to 50-50 in terms of carries. I think the snap share tells a little bit of a different story, but I would bet on the upside with Dowdle because I think, especially because you can get him cheaper now than you could have at any point in the prior 2 weeks.
Oh, I hate his late season schedule. Like Rams, then a bye. So this is beginning in like week 13, I think. Rams bye at the Saints, then Bucks, Seahawks in week 16 and 17. So Rams, Bucks, Seahawks are some of the best run defenses in football. And unfortunately, they're all on his schedule, Rico Dowdle's schedule.
That part's tough.
Yeah.
Heath, he can help you get there. Chuba played 54% of the snaps. Dowdle was at 46%.
I got to take a break. I didn't realize we went too long. All right, we'll be right back. We'll look at Heath's buy lows. They're buy super lows. They're hopefully buy off the waiver wire for free. We'll talk about that when we come back on Fantasy Football Today.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, welcome back. Heath, TreVeyon Henderson, Luther Burden. What are your thoughts on these two?
Well, first off, mostly my buys and my sells are talking to the good teams this week. I'm trying not to think about my bad teams. But you guys with bad teams, we're ready to help you out. But these are like, there's going to be some guys. And when we get to the midseason awards, I think we've got a bunch of who's going to be better rest of season type stuff. There's going to be some guys who've been terrible in the first half who are good and helpful and sometimes even great in the second half. And if I'm going to bet on guys to do that, I would like to bet on rookies to do that, rookies that we thought were good before the season, because every year there's one or two guys that does that. And so it's been crap on TreVeyon Henderson week this week on social media. And listen, rightly so. He's not taken any of the work from in a situation where it kind of went like we hoped it would around him. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled. We didn't hope Antonio Gibson would get hurt, but we hoped that he would go away. And it just nothing. But I still, I kind of look at the Henderson situation and the Burden situation as it seems pretty obvious to us if they were playing the snaps that the Olamide Zaccheaus and Ramondre Stevenson are playing, that they would be scoring more fantasy points, Burden in particular. But there's something that their head coaches want them to do that they've not figured out yet, which is not, again, that's surprising. That happens with rookies all the time, and it might last all year. But if Luther Burden suddenly started playing all of the snaps that Olamide Zaccheaus is playing, I think first off, the Bears offense might be better, their pass game, but maybe not the run game. But Luther Burden would be someone we would be ranking as a top 36 wide receiver every week, and that might be low because he's been awesome the few times he's gotten opportunities.
Okay.
Henderson hasn't been yet, and maybe it's just the dynasty mindset too much. I don't think 2 months is enough to just make us say, this guy that 75% of us thought was really good, no, he's terrible. Never going to help you.
Okay. I'll give you one bonus. I'll get your thoughts on a bonus buy low. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Would love to see it another week, but just don't know. Woody Marks. I mean, I think coming off such a bad game against Seattle, 10 carries for 15 yards, but he did have a receiving touchdown. I just thought it was interesting that he played a season high in snaps, that he had 2 goal line carries. It just seemed like they were taking the training wheels off a little bit, and they were coming out of their bye week, right? So, he kind of overtook Nick Chubb. We thought that was happening a few weeks ago, and then it completely reversed the following week. But I was encouraged, at least by the usage for Woody Marks. I don't know.
Well, I think you hit on a couple things. One, the bye week. I think the game where we got the trap game was he was great against the Titans, and then he struggled against the Ravens. And it's one of the rare times where they had success running the ball. They just lost. They went into the game without their number 2 receiver. They lost their number 1 receiver. So what makes the most sense is to have a pass catching back on the field, right? So I think in the case of moving forward, like, he should overtake Nick Chubb. You have to at some point realize, like, one guy's potentially your future and one guy's not.
Right. All right, let's go to the sell highs. Go ahead, Heath. Yeah.
I do wish that Woody Marks was doing something as a rusher. Like, he's been awesome when they've thrown him the ball. And I think Jamie's right. They'll probably throw him the ball more, not having their top 2 wide receivers. But he's got a 37% success rate to Nick Chubb's 47%. And he's averaging almost a full yard per carry less. Like, it's just been so bad as a rusher.
Niners, Broncos, Jaguars are his next 3 games.
Call that a medium run defense schedule.
Sure.
Not good. Not like Jaguars are actually the best of the bunch, but they're all like top 12 run defense in terms of yards.
I mean, I would.
It's actually kind of bad.
It wouldn't shock me, to be honest with you, if they struggled to run against the Dolphins and the Cowboys. Like, that's how bad they are.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I don't know that I want to buy low on anyone on this team because they are pathetic. And sorry, like, even Nico Collins. I mean, it's just such a struggle. They cannot throw the ball deep to Nico Collins. Throw the ball deep to Nico Collins, for God's sake. He'll make a play.
Well, right. The interesting part was Nico leaves the game and then he starts throwing downfield.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Unsuccessfully. Let's do sell highs here. Heath, you're saying sell high on Jake Ferguson. Is he still the number 1? Is he the number 1 tight end in fantasy?
Or 2 touchdowns, so I would guess so.
Yeah, and who's the other one? It was DeAndre. Oh, what?
What? Just for the good teams. Right. If you're struggling to get into the playoffs, I think DeAndre Swift probably gives you 3 more good games. And the schedule turns awful. And the split between he and Kyle Monangai has grown to where Monangai's just had his best game and looked really good with the extra work. And if we get into a situation where the Bears all of a sudden are back to averaging 3.8 yards per carry instead of 4.8, and Kyle Monangai is getting 10 to 12 touches per game, then down the stretch, it could be bad for the Bears run game. So I've got him ranked as a top 12 running back this week. I think Dave and Jamie do too, but I don't think you're probably going to be able to take 3 more good games as a playoff team and then sell him right before the schedule turns awful.
Isn't the move here to take Swift and pair him with another player and try and upgrade to one of the better running backs?
One of the best running backs.
Sure.
Oh, you'd have to sell
you could
very
shoot
high.
Right.
Yeah,
Very high.
Who'd you rather have rest of season, DeAndre Swift or Saquon Barkley?
Saquon's higher on the trade chart, but that gap has shrunk quite a bit.
I think you could probably trade him straight up for Barkley or Henry in a lot of leagues.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Ferguson.
I don't believe he's going to continue to be the number one tight end. I don't think anybody at all probably believed that last week with CeeDee Lamb coming back. But in CeeDee Lamb's first game back, George Pickens fell off a lot more than Jake Ferguson did. And Ferguson scored 2 touchdowns. So why don't you just go see if you can convince somebody that Jake Ferguson's just going to be this good all year?
So you trade him straight up for Bowers, McBride on the bye?
100%. Kittle after coming off of the 0-point game, 100%.
You're not going to trade him straight up for Kittle. Like, I think you could ask for something more than just Kittle.
Who's higher on the trade chart?
Ferguson.
Oh,
And I'd rather have Kittle rest of the season.
Jamie, break the tie. Kittle or Ferguson?
Ferguson.
Interesting. Okay. Jamie, your sell highs are Davante Adams and Michael Pittman.
Pittman's an easier case to be made just because we saw prior to Josh Downs getting hurt, the numbers were starting to trickle down a little bit. And I think with what Alec Pierce has done and maybe starting to do a little bit more, obviously Tyler Warren's there and Downs picking up a little bit more targets and production. Like, is Pittman going to continue to be as productive as he has been? So if there is a trade window, it's probably now with Downs still coming out of the concussion protocol. May not play again this week, but I think Pittman can bring back something very, very solid in return. And then just looking at Adams coming off the 3-touchdown game without Puka Nacua there, going into their bye week. Again, this is a sell high for a superstar. Not that he hasn't performed like one for a good portion of the season, but I just don't think it's as sustainable as what we just saw.
Okay. Dave, time for your sell highs.
It's Javonte Williams and A.J. Brown. In the case of A.J. Brown, he's coming off of a monster game. That's always a good time to sell high on somebody. The last time A.J. Brown came off of a monster game, he scored less than 3 PPR points the very next game. Not predicting that for this week for A.J. Brown, but just saying that he's at a high point. All of a sudden, we're going to buy into Philadelphia being able to throw the ball. It's just not what I would expect their identity to be rest of season, and that they will eventually go back to being at least balanced between running and passing, if not run heavy, and that Saquon will get his act together. So I am nervous about A.J. Brown being, 20 PPR points per game good. That seems like a stretch, but I'm saying sell high. I'm not saying sell for whatever. If you can trade him and get, a low-end running back and a really good wide receiver in exchange for him, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
Okay, so would you trade A.J. Brown for... I mean, look, we got to be realistic here, right? DeAndre Swift. Let's start with that. Swift or A.J. Brown?
I think it's close between the two. I think I have... I'm looking right now. Swift, I've got at 18 points in PPR. Or Brown, I do. Swift is spot higher, so give me Swift.
Would you trade A.J. Brown for Travis Etienne and Zay Flowers?
Yes. That is a deal that I like. Assuming that we've got Lamar Jackson coming back.
Yeah. Here's what I like.
I wish he had practiced. Once we see Lamar Jackson practicing, I feel real good about him playing this week. And that's obviously a huge key to Zay Flowers.
Here's what I like about A.J. Brown. He
convinced me, Adam.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, he's got the Giants this week. They might be without 2 defensive backs. We're going to start him this week. We have to start him this week, right? I mean, with the buys and the injuries and whatever.
Yeah, he has a bye. Everybody who's decent.
Look at the schedule after the bye. At Green Bay, Detroit, at Dallas. We've got potential shootouts there. We got the Bears after that. At the Chargers, we got a potential shootout. We got the Raiders after that. We've got Washington and Buffalo in the fantasy championships. Both games are on the road, so could have bad weather. But we've got a lot of really good offenses left on the Eagles' schedule. Could be a pass-heavy rest of season. Pass-heavy for them could be 30, 32 pass attempts, but that's still a lot, and that's 8 or more targets every week for A.J. Brown, maybe. So that's what I see. When I look at the Eagles schedule, I see a lot of potential high-scoring games, which could be very good for their passing game.
The thing that I'll give a positive and a negative. Negative is I think one of A.J. Brown's touchdowns last week was the same stupid route he's been running all year where he runs 10 yards, turns around and stops. But then he just decided to take off down the sideline.
He was pointed in that direction from Jalen Hurts.
What a great quarterback. And the second thing, speaking of a great quarterback, there are 6 quarterbacks who have a catchable target rate of 89% or better. Jalen Hurts is one of them, and he has the highest air yards per attempt of anybody on that list. Hopefully they continue to throw more of these deep passes because Jalen Hurts is doing a phenomenal job making those balls catchable.
Well, even he had said that he hadn't been playing that. Look, I'm on your side. I think the Jalen Hurts criticism by the national media is insane and the local media. There are things he doesn't do well, but we ignore the things that he does incredibly well. He also is not running. 3 straight games where he is just not running. It is bizarre. Sure. So that's going to actually hurt A.J. Brown when he starts running again. But he does. I mean, he will. It's he's not going to stop running. He had -10 rushing yards in week 7, but
it's probably why they stopped.
Again, I mean, that schedule enticed me with A.J. Brown. It's just something to think about. Dave,
the targets have been there for him. I mean, that's the encouraging thing too. It's not like we're waiting for these targets to come.
Exactly. Dave, Javonte Williams, what the hell? I hope you're wrong about that because I have so much Javonte. I mean, this guy's got one of the best roles in fantasy. Unfortunately, he's one of the least productive receiving running backs. It's unbelievable. But he gets targets. He gets all their carries. He's their goal line guy. We like the Cowboys. What are we doing here? Why are we selling high on Javonte?
Yeah, you've got to sell very high on Javonte because I do view him as like a top 5-6 type of running back rest of season. But the schedule is going to get harder, and I imagine that at some point the Dallas offense will start to either struggle or struggle to run the ball and or get into a bunch of high-scoring shootouts where Dak's just going to have a bunch of games where he throws a ton and there isn't much there. 2 weeks ago, we saw this against Carolina, and Javonte Williams didn't have a good game then. So it's not a call to get these guys off your team. It's if you can if you can upgrade them, do it. If you can sell high and get more value for them now, because a few weeks from now, I don't think they're going to have the same value. That's the point.
Okay. He does have tough run defenses.
And I am kind of little squeamish on Javonte rest of season, to be perfectly honest.
Who are you aiming for to trade to get upgrade over Javonte?
I mean, I'm looking to try and turn him into, I can't do it just with him, but find me Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, one of those studs, or take me to wide receiver. Top 5 type of wide receiver. I know I'm going to have to give up something with Javonte Williams to touch any of those guys.
Right.
But I don't know if Javonte was going to carry the same value if he has 2 mediocre games in a row.
No, I don't
disagree
with that. I just
get nervous about him when it
obviously
happens.
Pie in the sky to get those type of players.
No, not unless some of those players I've got a 1-16 with Bijan Robinson. And so if I was desperate to start winning games, I've got to break up Bijan Robinson, B. Robinson, into 2 good starters for my team. Getting Javonte Williams and another wide receiver, you can give me Zay Flowers. I'd have to look at that really hard.
Yeah.
You would trade Robinson for Javonte and Zay Flowers?
I would consider it.
I mean, look, I made a trade that I thought was great. Turned out to be horrible. I traded McCaffrey for Kyren Williams and Nico Collins. I'm losing that big time, but some of
that has to do with just the issues in Houston.
But I think
now Nico's hurt.
I knew about those issues. But if you trade Javonte Williams and someone, I mean, would Javonte Williams and Davante Adams be enough for Christian McCaffrey?
I think it would be close. I think it would be close enough, but there's context that's needed because the person that has Christian McCaffrey isn't going to auto do that trade. They've got to have a need for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I will just say, just for people listening, Javonte hasn't just been a volume merchant. There's 2 running backs.
Had really good efficiency.
There's 2 running backs that are averaging more than 4 yards after contact per rush attempt. and one of them, we said his name a bunch of times, a bunch of different ways, Bijan Robinson, and the other one's Javonte Williams.
All right. Well, I'm wondering if Jordan Mason going to join that group this week, because he's got what's looking like a great matchup. We'll talk about that when we come back. Minnesota's at the Chargers. Then we're going to do some superlatives and some second half predictions, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. And welcome back, everybody. All right, Dave, Thursday Night Football.
Nah.
Minnesota's at the Chargers. The stat of the game from weeks 5 through 7, the last 3 weeks, the Chargers are allowing the second most points per game in the NFL. The only team worse has been the Bengals. They are tied. The Bengals and the Chargers are tied. Most yards per play allowed over the last 3 weeks. The Chargers have given up 27 points to the Commanders, 27 at Miami, 38 points to the Colts in their last 3 games. Their run defense has been horrible. They're getting a little bit healthier. I was reading about it in The Athletic and the reasons for the struggles against the run. One of them was the absence of Khalil Mack, who played a little bit last week, the absence of Denzel Perryman, who came back last week, et cetera, et cetera. I'll skip all the details, but hopefully they're getting better. But holy cow, I mean, this defense has been horrible. Jamie, are we expecting the Vikings to put up a big number here against the Chargers on the road Thursday?
There's certainly the potential for that. It's hard to trust Carson Wentz because the pass offense has not looked great, and the pass defense for the Chargers has still been very solid prior to the Colts game. So will they have the same type of success? I think Wentz is in the low end starting conversation, given the week and the teams that are by. But I think you just look at the body of work for the Chargers and you wonder, can they have that level of success? So I don't want to, fully buy into Wentz. Like I'm starting him in super flex and 2 quarterback leagues, but in a 1 quarterback league, I'd rather start Flacco by far.
Would you rather start Tyrod Taylor against the Bengals, assuming the Jets quarterback, or Wentz?
If Garrett Wilson plays, I would start Tyrod Taylor. I don't think we'll know that though by Thursday night.
Yeah. All right, Heath, how much is your ranking of Jordan Mason, who is facing a team that, as I said earlier, has allowed 29 or more fantasy points to 3 straight running backs? That would be Corey Krosky-Merrick, Devon Achane, and Jonathan Taylor. How much would your ranking of Jordan Mason change if Aaron Jones is activated?
It would probably go down a couple of spots. I think I've got him right around RB20 right now. I think you might see his share of the workload go down just a little bit, but he's got 1 game with over a 70% snap share, and it was last week. And Xavier Scott got hurt last week, right?
I didn't think so. Did he?
He's got a red cross next to his name.
Oh, okay.
I think he was hurt coming into the week.
So like you look at his touches, and it was 15 last week. It was 18 the week before. He's got a 16 and an 18 in there. Well, he had a 16 and a 12 with Aaron Jones. So maybe you expect he's going to have 14 touches instead of 16 touches this week. The catches are so inconsistent.
Yeah.
You've got 2 3-catch games sandwiched in between 2 0-catch games. And I think if Aaron Jones is back, you're probably not getting more than maybe 1 catch. And as bad as the Chargers run defense has been the last 3 weeks is how bad the Vikings run offense has been the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, rank the running backs in this game. Mason's 1.
I've got Vidal over Mason.
Oh,
Mason's 1. Vidal is 2. Jones would be 3.
And Jamie, are you saying Mason's 1 with or without Aaron Jones?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I mean, 6.5 yards allowed to running backs in their last 3 games for the Chargers. So they're hoping that the better health is going to result in, better defense. But by the way, these 2 teams are 2 of the most pass heavy teams. The Vikings are back to having a very, very high pass rate, which is good. Heath, why, we'll get back to that in a second. Why are you optimistic about Vidal coming off a game with 7.5 fantasy points against the Colts?
Well, as much as we talk about how bad the Chargers defense has been recently, the Chargers are still favorites on a short week. And the Vikings have an implied total of, I think, 20.5, and the Chargers are at 24. I generally lean towards the home team on a short week, and I don't know that the Vikings run defense is great either.
It's been pretty up and down. Like last week, it was great against Barkley. The week before, it was terrible against Judkins, then terrible against Gainwell. They've had ups and downs for sure. Okay, and then Jamie, where do you have Vidal?
He's in the top 24, but it's by default. If this was a normal week, he would be outside the top 24. We have a 2-game sample size of what this Chargers rush offense looks like without Amari Hampton there. And it was one great game against the Miami Dolphins, and it was one terrible game against the Indianapolis Colts. And so I think the Vikings run defense is probably the best run defense that they've faced. And so if he's going to struggle against the Colts, and especially if the Vikings offense shows up, I think we've seen enough now that they'll quickly abandon the run. So I'm just a little bit nervous about what Vidal is going to look like if he doesn't score a touchdown.
Here's a question. Start 2 this week in full PPR. Rico Dowdle, Bill, Vidal.
I would sit Bill.
I would sit Bill too.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully Vidal gets some targets, as someone mentioned in the chat, and that because what's his name? Bill doesn't really get those. How about this? Matthew Golden or Kamani Vidal?
Vidal.
I'd go Vidal, but that Steelers secondary looked so bad last week. Like, hopefully Jordan Love can take advantage of it with Golden, but it's hard to trust Golden right now as a guy in comparison to at least Vidal's getting touches.
All right, let's talk about the wide receivers in this game. Let's save that. Let's save that real quick. Starter sit Justin Herbert.
Start.
Herbert or Dart at Philadelphia.
Herbert.
I would go Herbert.
Herbert or Caleb Williams at Baltimore.
Herbert.
Okay, so I'm hoping that this does not come true, but the Vikings see the second fewest pass attempts per game in the NFL, and they're facing a team that throws the ball more than any team in football. So I'm hoping that we get that, because last week we had the same situation. It was the Niners versus the Falcons, and the Niners threw 26 times. So we're hoping for that, 35 to 45 pass attempt game for Justin Herbert.
To be fair, they faced the Browns.
Talking about Minnesota?
Yeah.
It's every single week teams aren't throwing on them. I went through every game log. Why aren't teams throwing on Minnesota? And I honestly cannot come up with a great reason. Some of them have just been run-heavy teams. Last week, the Eagles couldn't really run the ball. They threw 23 passes and they torched them, but they only ran 49 plays. It's been a different reason almost every week.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I come back to is Justin Herbert's playing very well, and they just gave up 5 passing touchdowns in the last 2 games to Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Hurts. And so, to Heath's point about Jalen Hurts taking unfair criticism, he's still not the best passer in the league, and he's not at Justin Herbert's level of a passer. With what the strength of the Chargers offense is right now, like, those 4 pass catchers should have a field day.
Everybody just stay tuned and maybe record this. Heath's head might explode if anyone says anything bad about Jalen Hurts.
No.
For the rest of the show. Heath, rank the wide receivers.
It was really bad about Jalen Hurts. I just don't think he's Justin Herbert as a passer.
Right. I don't know how we could ever expect Jalen Hurts to have as much success in his career as Justin Herbert.
Not success in career. It's throwing of the football.
People are as good as a pure passer as Herbert.
I think you could just about throw the Chargers into, like, if anybody used to play bingo a long time ago, you just put the 3 balls in the thing and spin it around and draw one out. Because I've gone through the data, and the only thing that really stands out is that nothing.
Yep.
Like there's not anything that really gives you a good indicator. So I mostly am just starting all 3 of the Chargers. I have it currently ranked Keenan, Ladd, Quentin, but they're all between 10 and 20. And I would just start all 3 of them. Jefferson is ahead of all of them. I think I've got Addison behind all of them, but he's a start also. So just start all 5 wide receivers in this game.
Jamie, your thoughts?
I agree. The order for me is Jefferson 1, Allen 2, McConkey 3, Addison 4, Johnston 5.
Got some questions in the chat. Maybe this will clear things up. First of all, Herbert questions. Yeah, exactly. Herbert or Nix?
Bo Nix is my start of the week, so I'd go Nix. I have him one spot ahead.
I've got Herbert one spot ahead, but they're both starts.
Herbert or Drake May against Cleveland?
Herbert.
Quentin Johnston or Kamani Vidal, or start both and sit Wandale or Diggs in half PPR?
I just don't understand these people who have all of these good players to start this week. Did you not draft anybody with a week 8 bye? Fantastic. Good job, guys.
All of these guys were late picks, that also like this.
Right,
is
that's true.
I love how this is what you consider great players.
Yeah. Right.
Well, for this week.
No, I get it, but it's just funny. Like, look at the names. Quentin Johnston, waiver wire guy. Vidal, waiver wire guy. Wandale, potentially waiver wire guy. Diggs, we didn't know what to expect.
I think, boy, this is tough. I think I'm sitting Kamani Vidal, but
I'm sending Vidal to you.
I would probably. I think
actually,
I've got
Wandale. Sorry, Heath. Go ahead.
No, I
Wandale's my favorite of this list.
Half PPR though, like full PPR maybe. Half PPR.
I don't know. 7 for 95 every week looks pretty good to me, and no matter what format.
That. Yeah, but I don't. I'll never trust Wandale, but I see your point.
half PPR. I think I've got Johnston the lowest, but
all right, but they're all in the same boat. Vidal or
Right.
Quentin Johnston.
Johnston.
it'd be Vidal for me.
All right, and then the tight ends, Hawkinson or Gadsden. Who do you like better?
Guessing. But
Hawkinson's
give
pretty
Hawkinson
good.
some credit. His last 3 games, 9.8 PPR points or more. So 6 targets each of the last 2 games. So or maybe 6 catches each of the last 2 games. Like he's been involved.
His only like really bad games were with McCarthy throwing 22 times a game or something like that. And now they're throwing a lot more. And Hawkins
It is a tough matchup though.
It is, yeah. 7th fewest fantasy points allowed. All right, who would you start Gadsden over? People are spending all their fab on him. I got Gadsden or Hunter Henry in the chat. That's an easy one, right? We think.
Oh, I don't know if you saw what I tweeted yesterday. I just happened to be in the car, and Aronde Gadsden Sr., his father, was a local radio spot with Mark Hochman and Channing Crowder on WQAM 560 WQAM in Miami, and he said he's benched his son each of the last 2 weeks in his fantasy league. And he said he will stay on the bench because I'm not messing with karma.
There we go.
That's well done. Good job, Dad.
Mason-
Gadsden over Henry.
Mason Taylor or Gadsden?
Gadsden.
But I do like Taylor this week.
Gadsden or Jake Ferguson, non-PPR?
Ferguson.
Let's see. We got Aaron Jones if he plays or Tyler Algier.
Oh, man, I like Algier a lot this week. I'd probably go Jones in PPR and Algier in half and none.
Sure.
How about Gadsden or Dalton Kincaid?
I like Kincaid a lot if he plays, but I probably would play it safe and go Gadsden just because you don't know.
I would unless we get a really strong indicator in the next 36 hours, it's going to have to be Gadsden.
Gadsden or Goddard?
I would go Goddard.
I have Goddard higher.
Gadsden or Kittle?
Kittle.
Are you starting a DST?
I prefer not to.
These DSTs have stunk. They have really stunk, but both teams are a little turnover prone. Try to get away from these DSTs. And that is it for Thursday Night Football. Dave? Nah. Dave had to leave, by the way. Sorry about that. He had to leave mid-game preview there. All right, mid-season awards. MVP, Rookie of the Year, Biggest Bust, and Best Waiver Wire Ads. Jamie, who's your MVP?
Jonathan Taylor.
Heath, who's your MVP?
Christian McCaffrey.
Psh. I don't even know who I'm. They're both such good answers. You got a little bit more draft value from Taylor.
McCaffrey was my original answer before I delete and put Jonathan Taylor because I think they're both worthy. But I went exactly with what you just said, the draft cost.
Yeah, McCaffrey's averaging 1.4 more PPR fantasy points per game, but they're both over 25. That's insane. Biggest bust. No, wait. Rookie of the Year.
Stick with the Colts. Tyler Warren.
I win a Buka.
Do you guys think Emeka Buka is going to be a top 5 wide receiver, top 8 wide receiver.
I wrote yesterday he might be a top 5 wide receiver rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think I'd like it a little better if they do get Godwin back, because I don't think Godwin's going to keep Ibuka from seeing 10 targets a game. But I think it might help him if there was somebody else that defenses cared about. It was a little bit scary. Like Baker airmailed a couple of those throws on Monday, but it was a little bit scary to see the double coverage so often on Ibuka.
I think it was if I'm not mistaken, the Eagles game was the first one he played without Evans and Godwin. Week
Did
4,
he
maybe
without Evans and Godwin? I don't. He had 10 targets. I thought Godwin played.
Maybe that was Godwin's first game back.
Yeah,
but that was where he needed the big play where the two defensive backs ran into each other.
Yeah. Godwin played that game. Ibuka had a huge game. Okay. How about biggest bust?
I think I said Brian Thomas Jr.
Yes, and I think that's a good answer. I said Saquon Barkley because he was. I just looked at CBS ADP, and Saquon Barkley was the 3rd pick, and Brian Thomas was the 21st pick, and Saquon's only been 2.5 points per game better than Brian Thomas.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, to think Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs back to back, just brutal pick of Barkley. And then the best waiver wire ad so far.
I was struggled with this with Daniel Jones. I almost was going to just put all Colts, but I struggled with this with Daniel Jones versus Rico Dowdle, and I went with Dowdle just because those 2 games that you started him won you your week.
Yep, I went Dowdle too.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the second half superlatives then. We're going to look ahead here. Who's going to be the fantasy MVP in the second half?
I said James Cook, just coming off of their bye. He was good at the start of the season. We've had the last lull prior to their bye week. You've heard a lot of chatter about not getting him the ball enough, and we know what he was last year and what he looked like at the start of this season, which was amazing. So he could be, you're clearly starting him every week, but could be one of the top 5 running backs in fantasy rest of the way.
I'm laughing about in a moment. Go ahead.
I may have been too influenced by Monday night, but I said Jahmyr Gibbs. We had a lot of questions about how the Detroit offense might be different coming into this year. And it seems like the way that it's different is let's just give our best players the ball more often and not use as many guys as often. And David Montgomery ended up with 13 carries and 2 catches on Monday night. But a lot of that was they just ran him into the line the last 2 series because the game was over.
So I asked on Twitter who people thought would be the MVP of the second half. And one I was laughing at was someone put the gif of Rob Gronkowski saying, Amika Egbigbu, which just cracks me up every time. But Rashee Rice, I think, is a really good answer here. A lot of people said Rashee Rice. And people said like Jonathan Taylor. Someone said Saquon. I just don't really see it with Saquon. Obviously, it could happen. I went back. I watched this. I saw the game live, and then I went back and I watched his carries against Minnesota, and he's still making some breathtaking plays, spinning away from guys in the backfield. He's just not hitting the home runs. He doesn't have a 20-yard carry yet. I don't really have my theory is that the offensive line is not getting to the second level like they were. It's just a theory. I'm not qualified to say that definitively. But I see Barkley. It's not like nobody thinks he's washed up. It's not like he stinks. He's still doing good things. Like you could see it in the passing game. But I cannot find a 7-game stretch in his career. I went back and looked at his career. 3.3 yards per carry right now. I can't find a stretch like this. I found some similar stretches, but they were mostly in either A, one of his kind of down seasons, or B, coming off a midseason injury. This is getting pretty worrisome now with Saquon Barkley. I think better things are ahead. I just don't know that he's going to be the fantasy MVP.
I think that the things you got to look at, and we're going to, again, have these, may not happen this year, but whenever there's the workload and the small sample size of the 2,000-yard rushers, he's on pace right now. Every single one of them declined by 500 yards or more.
I know, but this is extreme. I feel like he could be a 4.2 yards per carry kind of guy rest of season. And if he is, he's going to be really good. It can't be 3.3. He's not going to be 5.5 or whatever he was last year at Barkley.
I mean, a yard jump is pretty big.
It is, but it's not uncommon to see that kind of regression, for a player like Barkley to have if it were like a 4 or 5 game stretch, it'd be one thing. 7 games is getting somewhere. I just think that he's still showing a lot of explosiveness. It's been mostly in the passing game, but you still see the speed. I can't really diagnose it, quite honestly.
The line hasn't been as good. There have been injuries there. It's just
the line.
I'm not sure we've seen that. I think we've seen, not to be pedantic, but I think we've seen more of the quickness and lateral agility than we've seen the speed. He hasn't really been able to open it up.
He has. I don't know if that's his fault, but if he could spin away from guys who are right in front of his face multiple times in the last game, and I don't know what it is. He's not washed up, because people are asking in the chat, is Barkley. I've seen a lot of Barkley here. I believe he's not washed up. I also think this line excuse is kind of ridiculous. I know the Eagles line hasn't been nearly as good. It's still really good. It's still a good offensive line. At worst, it's average. It's not like Saquon Barkley is running behind the Texans offensive line.
No, but that's the difference between a 2,000-yard season and then 3.3 yards per carry season.
That's my thing. I don't think it should be the difference between a 2,000-yard season and 3.3. I think it should be the difference between 5.5 and 4.2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I hope maybe. Who's the comeback player of the year based on a bad first half?
I said Ladd McConkey started to show some life the last couple of weeks. We know that they're going to struggle to run the ball, at least until Hampton returns, based on one game. But I don't really trust Kamani Vidal to be the catalyst of their offense. So for a quarterback in Justin Herbert, who is going to throw the ball around 40 times per game, if not more, I think there's a lot to like about Ladd McConkey's situation, even in a crowded receiving corps.
I said Tedero McMillan because Adams told us all year how bad he's been in the first half. And so hopefully the rookie can like basically the same thing as Luther Burden and TreVeyon Henderson. Hopefully he can turn things around in the second half.
I'm hopeful for him, but he's averaging 11.9 fantasy points per game, and he is wide receiver 36 per game in full PPR, 35 per game in full PPR. I'm going to take a guy, actually, I wasn't even thinking about this, right above him in points per game. I'm going to say Stephon Diggs. Some very good underlying data with Stephon Diggs. We just need to see him play more. And he
doesn't fit that category, though.
He's averaging 12 points per game.
No, you said somebody who we thought was going to be great that struggled in the first half of the season.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, nobody thought he was going to be great.
Oh, no. And no, I didn't say something. I didn't say that you thought was going to be comeback player of the year. Okay. Honestly, I wasn't planning on saying Diggs. I just looked up McMillan's points per game, saw Diggs right ahead of him. I think Diggs is a good buy low. Guy we should have sold high on.
Pittman.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay. All right. I got an email of the day. It's from Grant. Grant got bored and he asked ChatGPT to describe what it thinks each of us would be as Halloween candy. Okay. So for me, ChatGPT thinks I'm plain M&Ms. I'm the guy who says, I don't like peanut butter and chocolate's too rich. So he's going with something basic and universal. Okay. None of that is true, ChatGPT. I do love plain M&Ms. Jamie is Snickers. He is balanced. Chocolate, caramel, nuts, a little chewy, universally loved, just like Jamie's fantasy takes. Dave is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, a total classic that's been around forever. Exactly like Dave's you don't sit your studs approach. I don't know if Dave has that approach. ChatGPT kind of sucks. Heath is dark chocolate or dark chocolate almonds. Health conscious. This is ridiculous.
Love both.
Health conscious, sophisticated, and a little contrarian. Okay, that's not bad.
I've said a lot of bad things about AI, but it sounds like it's getting better.
While everyone else is pounding candy corn, Heath's enjoying his antioxidant-rich cacao with 72% cocoa solids.
The quote is spot on.
Yeah, good. It should be while everyone else is enjoying Halloween, Heath is doing something else. Dan Schneier is Sour Patch Kids. He starts sour. He's got that sharp, intense New York energy, but once you get to know him, he's sweet underneath. And Jacob Gibbs, Smarties. Come on, it's right there in the name. He's the data wizard who politely teaches everyone why their priors are wrong. This is great. This is a hell of a bowl of candy. M&M's, Snickers, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Sour Patch Kids, and dark chocolate almond.
It's a diabetic stream. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Welcome to Halloween.
Actually, dark chocolate's good for your health.
I've heard that. All right, I'll finish with stats that have caught my eye. Give me a quick reaction. Minnesota, very pass heavy again. Justin Jefferson has 1 touchdown on the season. Do you think maybe he's about to just go off in the second half?
That would probably depend on how much you believe in JJ McCarthy, right? Because if McCarthy's good, then there's huge upside for Jefferson. If McCarthy is going to struggle, like we saw at least in that Falcons game, and I think Heath nailed it, like probably didn't realize the Falcons how good they are. You might be a little bit nervous about that. Plus now Jordan Addison's back, but I think there's still huge potential for Jefferson, who's proven he could be successful with almost any quarterback he's played with.
I think he'll be better than he has been. I'm not sure he's going to explode.
Among 70 wide receivers with 25 or more targets, I'm going to give you 3 that have really good advanced metrics in at least 2 of these 3 metrics: target per route run rate, yards per route run rate, first down per route run rate. Stephon Diggs is top 16 in all 3 of them. He's top 5 in 2 of them. Ricky Pearsall and Josh Downs are top 10 in 2 of those 3 metrics. Downs is kind of always there. He just doesn't play enough.
That is exactly the point. I think that group of stats that you just gave really illustrates. Guys that don't run all of the routes often have better metrics on these. Like he's not a guy that runs 90% of the routes. It's much more difficult for them to be top. Now, if you're JSN, it isn't.
Right.
But like Diggs has 1 game where he's played 60% of the snaps this year.
I think he's had 2 games where he's run like 75% or more of the routes.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that goes up. Look, Drake May's having an MVP-like season. I really think Diggs has a chance to just crush everyone in targets on that team.
There was a great graphic last night that was shared that showed like the best second-year QBs and passes of 20 or more yards. And Drake May is basically breaking the chart.
Wow.
But the funny thing was, like, some of the 3 worst, I think, were Goff and Lamar and somebody else who was really good. And the 3 best were Purdy and Kaepernick and Tua. Like, so is Drake May on the right end?
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah.
Who do you think right now is second in MVP voting?
Oh, he might be first.
Mahomes is 1.
Ooh, I thought Baker was 1, but Baker just had that horrible game. If Mahomes is 1, I guess Baker's 2 for me, then May. Heath?
Yeah, I don't think there is a very good 2 right now.
Daniel Jones deserves credit, but I think no. I think when you watch the tape of Daniel Jones, you see a lot of really terrible throws. So I think Jonathan Taylor actually would get my vote ahead of Daniel Jones. But Jones had a great year, but not MVP year. What's your top 3, Jamie?
I would go Mahomes, May, and Mayfield. In order would be Mahomes, Mayfield, May.
All right. Grade this trade from Andrew. I get Jake Ferguson and Zay Flowers. I give Tyler Warren and either Jordan Addison or T. Higgins. This is an F-. Do not do it.
Tell me again. I'm sorry.
He would give up Warren and either Addison or Higgins to get Ferguson and Flowers.
Why is it an F for you?
It's a D. It's a D. It's not an F. I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it either, but it feels like it's a wash. Like you're just trading to trade.
Yeah. From Kyle, would you trade Derrick Henry and Emeka Ibuka for Jamar Chase in a 12-team PPR league?
That's a lot. If you really believe Joe Flacco is this, then it's worth it.
I'd have to have 3 other running backs I'm okay starting.
Okay. Would you trade?
I mean, Ibuka, I know Dave said this before Flacco, but he said he would take Ibuka. This was pre-hamstring injury. Mike Evans was out at the time. But Dave said, I think he had it in his trade chart. I know we talked about this off the air. He said he would take Ibuka over Jamar Chase rest of season.
Weeks ago.
This was peak Ibuka, Chase had just lost.
What a great team name.
What?
Peekabooka.
That's good. Yeah. I know we're
Peekaboo.
gonna go on that. That was a good one, Heath.
It was Jamie's.
Oh, what was a good spot? Good team name by Jamie. Good spot by Heath. And I did nothing. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we will talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today with starter sit for the AFC home game. See ya.